First contact and confrontation. The soft pulsing of alarm lights bathed Outpost Horizon's command center in crimson. Commander Ilara Chen rubbed her temples, feeling the ache of another double shift. 3 months stationed at humanity's furthest outpost had made her intimately familiar with false alarms. The outpost's ancient detection systems had a tendency to mistake passing comets for approaching ships. "Status report," she called out, expecting the usual explanation. Lieutenant Marcus Diaz's fingers danced across his console, his usual calm demeanor now edged with tension. "Commander, this isn't a system glitch. We've got an unidentified vessel approaching from the Ta City direction. It's massive, at least 3 kilometers in length based on preliminary scans." Ilara straightened in her chair. Humanity had established colonies on 12 worlds across 7 star systems, but no human ship approached even half that size. Distance and speed. Currently 1.6 million kilometers out, traveling at approximately 1/10 light speed. Decelerating. At current trajectory, they'll reach us in under 6 hours. Ilara's mind raced. Outpost Horizon was humanity's earliest warning system, positioned at the edge of colonized space. They were understaffed, under-resourced, and absolutely unprepared for first contact. Open a channel on all standard frequencies. Add translation algorithms and basic mathematical sequences. Ilara smoothed her uniform and alert Earth Defense Command immediately. "Channel open," confirmed Communications Officer Priya Sharma after a moment. Ilara cleared her throat. "This is Commander Ilara Chen of Outpost Horizon, representing the United Earth Coalition. We welcome peaceful contact and communication. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." The message was transmitted in multiple formats, including simple visual representations and mathematical sequences designed to demonstrate intelligence. It was the protocol every human explorer had trained for since the first colony ships left Earth. Minutes ticked by with no response. "Should we transmit again?" Priya asked. Ilara shook her head. "They heard us. Let's give them time to." A piercing electronic shriek erupted from the communications array, forcing everyone to cover their ears. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that would haunt Ilara's nightmares for years to come. The beings on screen were vaguely humanoid, but with elongated limbs and torsos covered in what appeared to be chitin rather than skin. Their faces, if they could be called that, were collections of sensory organs arranged around a central orifice, lined with serrated edges. Multiple eyes of different sizes studied the humans with cold calculation. "They're scanning us," Marcus reported, his voice tight. "Deep penetration scans. They're mapping our entire station." The alien in the center of the screen made a series of clicking sounds that the translation software couldn't interpret. Then, in halting, synthesized English, "Primitive life forms detected. Outpost designated for collection and study. Resistance inadvisable. Prepare for boarding." The transmission cut abruptly. "Collection and study," Priya whispered. "That doesn't sound like diplomatic relations." Ilara's military training kicked in. "Battle stations. Initiate evacuation protocol Omega. All non-essential personnel to the emergency shuttles immediately." She turned to Marcus. "What weapons do they have?" "Reading multiple energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Power levels are..." His voice faltered. "Commander, they could obliterate this station with what appears to be a fraction of their capability." "What about our defenses?" "The station's kinetic barriers might withstand a few hits, but our offensive capabilities are limited to point defense lasers and a handful of missiles." Ilara nodded grimly. "Not designed for war, just deterrence against pirates and debris." She activated the station-wide communication system. "Attention all personnel. This is Commander Chen. We have confirmed first contact with a non-human intelligence. Their intentions appear hostile. This is not a drill. Proceed to emergency evacuation shuttles according to Protocol Omega. All data on the alien vessel is being transmitted to Earth Defense Command. As the station personnel rushed to evacuate, Ilara led her bridge crew in preparing what meager defenses they had. "Commander," Marcus called out, "they've launched smaller craft. I count 6 vessels, each approximately 100 meters in length, approaching rapidly. Time to intercept. 12 minutes at current velocity." Ilara made her decision. "Begin rotating our shield frequencies. They might have trouble penetrating if we keep changing the harmonics. Arm all missiles and target the lead ship. Let's see how they react to a warning shot." The station's defensive systems came online, weapons locking onto the approaching vessels. "Fire 1 missile across their path, not directly at them. Let's not be the ones to start an interspecies war if we can avoid it." A single missile streaked from the station, crossing the path of the alien vessels without striking them. For a moment, Ilara hoped it would be enough to make them reconsider. Instead, one of the smaller ships casually fired what looked like a pulse of blue energy. The missile detonated prematurely, its explosion creating barely a flash in the vacuum of space. "They've increased speed," Marcus reported, his voice tight. 8 minutes to intercept. Ilara's console displayed the evacuation status. 3 shuttles had already launched, carrying most of the station's civilian researchers and support staff. 2 more were preparing for departure. "Commander," Priya called out, "I'm detecting unusual energy patterns in their propulsion system. There appears to be a fluctuation every time they adjust course, like their systems momentarily destabilize." Ilara studied the readings. "Focus our scans there. If we're going to survive this, we need to find a weakness." The next minutes passed in tense silence as the alien ships drew closer. Detailed scans revealed more about their technology. Their hulls were composed of unfamiliar alloys, their weapons systems pulsed with exotic particles, but their propulsion systems showed that distinct vulnerability during directional changes. "Final shuttle launching now, Commander," reported Security Chief Kazuki Tanaka. 92% of personnel evacuated. Only bridge crew remains." Ilara nodded. "Send all our data to the shuttles and to Earth Defense Command, especially the information about their propulsion weakness." The alien vessels were now close enough to be visible through the observation windows, sleek, angular ships that moved with disturbing precision. "They're surrounding the station," Marcus reported. "We're being hailed again." The main screen flickered to life once more. The same alien figure appeared, those multiple eyes focused intently. "Your primitive defenses are noted. Resistance has been calculated as futile. Surrender your command systems for efficient collection." Ilara stood tall. "We are a peaceful research outpost. We have no quarrel with you. Our people have evacuated, and we request safe passage for them." The aliens' response was immediate. "Evacuation vessels noted. They will be collected separately. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will be categorized and assimilated." The screen went dark. "They're powering weapons," Marcus announced. "All 6 ships simultaneously." Ilara made her final decision. "All remaining crew to the last shuttle immediately. I'm staying behind to ensure you get away." "Commander, no," Priya began. "That's an order," Ilara cut her off. "Earth needs to know what we're facing. They need the data on the propulsion weakness. I'll keep them busy while you escape." As her bridge crew reluctantly departed, Ilara began the final phase of her plan. She rerouted all power to the station's reactors, overriding safety protocols. The station's single defensive laser would be useless against the alien vessels, but the station itself could become a weapon. She opened a channel to the retreating shuttles. "This is Commander Chen. I've discovered their propulsion systems are vulnerable during directional changes. Their shield harmonics also fluctuate when they fire their main weapons. Use this information. Make it count." She paused. "It's been an honor serving with you all. For Earth." As the alien vessels moved in to begin their collection, Ilara initiated the station's self-destruct sequence, timing it precisely with the moment the largest alien ship executed a directional change. The resulting explosion wasn't just destructive, it was precisely targeted at the enemy's most vulnerable moment. From the fleeing shuttles, Ilara's crew watched as Outpost Horizon erupted in a blinding flash. The shockwave caught the largest alien vessel during its propulsion cycle, tearing through its weakened shields and rupturing its hull. The other ships scattered, clearly surprised by the effectiveness of the primitive station's final act of defiance. As they escaped, Lieutenant Diaz gripped the data core containing their scans and observations. "She found a weakness," he said quietly. "She gave us a chance." The shuttles accelerated toward the nearest jump point, carrying with them humanity's first, and vital, intelligence about a new and terrifying enemy. Resistance and strategy. Admiral William Donovan stared at the holographic display dominating Earth Defense Command's war room. Red markers indicated confirmed attacks on human outposts and colonies, 17 in the 3 weeks since Commander Chen's final transmission. Each represented thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of lives. "They're methodically working their way through our outer colonies," he said grimly. "New Eden fell yesterday. Proxima Centauri b is under attack now." The gathered military leadership and scientific advisors absorbed the news in solemn silence. Humanity's expansion into the stars, once a source of pride and optimism, was being systematically dismantled by an enemy they now knew called themselves the Voidborn Collective. Dr. Samira Khatri, head of xenobiology, gestured to the display. "Based on the data from Outpost Horizon and subsequent encounters, we've learned the Voidborn operate as a hive consciousness. They assimilate biological and technological distinctiveness from species they encounter, incorporating useful traits into their own. And apparently, they've decided humanity has traits worth collecting." General Rodriguez added bitterly. "What about survivors?" asked Lieutenant Marcus Diaz, one of the few who had escaped Outpost Horizon. He had been promoted and reassigned to Earth Defense Command, bringing with him invaluable first-hand experience. Admiral Donovan's expression darkened. "Limited. They're not interested in total extermination, at least not yet. They take samples, people, technology, data, then move on. The rest are," he struggled for the right word, "discarded." "Our conventional weapons have proven largely ineffective," reported General Rodriguez. "Their shields adapt quickly. The Mars Defense Fleet managed to destroy 2 of their smaller vessels using the propulsion vulnerability Commander Chen discovered, but the Voidborn adapted within hours. They've since reinforced those systems. So we hit them harder," said Colonel Wei, commander of Earth's orbital defense platforms. "The Thermopylae Initiative, our experimental fusion cannons, could deliver enough energy to overwhelm their shields regardless of adaptation." Dr. Khatri shook her head. "Energy isn't the answer. The more we escalate, the more they adapt. We need to think differently." She turned to Marcus. "Lieutenant, you witnessed their first attack. What stood out to you besides the propulsion weakness?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "Their efficiency," he said finally. "Everything they did was calculated, precise. There was no emotion, no hesitation. When Commander Chen destroyed the station and damaged their ship, they seemed confused, like they couldn't comprehend why someone would sacrifice themselves." "Self-preservation," Dr. Khatri nodded. "A fundamental evolutionary trait. The Voidborn operate as a collective, valuing the whole over individuals. Individual sacrifice might be an alien concept to them." Admiral Donovan leaned forward. "How does that help us fight them?" "It gives us unpredictability," Marcus replied, an idea forming. "Their technological superiority is built on calculation and adaptation, but they can only adapt to what they understand." Over the next days, a strategy emerged, not one of direct confrontation, but of guerrilla warfare on a cosmic scale. Small, fast ships with minimal crews would conduct hit-and-run attacks, targeting the propulsion vulnerability, but never engaging long enough for the Voidborn to adapt. Each attack would use different methods, different weapons, forcing the enemy to spread their adaptive capabilities thin. Meanwhile, Earth scientists worked feverishly to develop new technologies based on the data collected from each encounter. The Voidborn's technological edge was substantial, but humanity had one advantage: creativity born of desperation. Dr. Katri led a team that analyzed the biological samples recovered from damaged Voidborn ships. Their neural structure is fascinating, she explained during a briefing 3 weeks into the Resistance. Their hive mind operates on electromagnetic frequencies that our brains can't naturally process, but we've developed a prototype that might allow limited interference with their communication. The prototype became the cornerstone of Operation Trojan, a daring plan to infiltrate Voidborn systems with false information, creating confusion within their collective consciousness. Marcus found himself assigned to the first strike team, commanding a swift corvette named Horizon's Legacy. Their mission: deploy Dr. Katri's device near a Voidborn command ship and escape before being detected. This isn't just about survival anymore, Admiral Donovan told the assembled crews before their departure. This is about showing them that humanity won't be categorized, collected, or discarded. We fight not because we expect to win through force alone, but because our creativity, our individuality, our unpredictability. These are weapons they cannot adapt to. The fleet of 30 small, agile ships departed Earth's orbit under the cover of a manufactured sensor ghost, another innovation developed by studying Voidborn technology. Their destination: the remains of the Proxima Centauri colony, where intelligence suggested a major Voidborn fleet was gathering. As Horizon's Legacy accelerated toward the jump point, Marcus studied his crew, a mixture of military personnel and civilian specialists, all volunteers. Among them was Priya Sharma, the communications officer who had served alongside him, and Commander Chen at Outpost Horizon. "Do you think this will work?" she asked quietly as they prepared for the jump. Marcus considered the question. Chen found one weakness in minutes. "We've had weeks to study them now. Their technology is advanced, but it's rigid, predictable. Ours isn't. And if we fail, then Earth stands alone," he said simply. "But they'll have more data, more insights. Every encounter teaches us something new about them." The journey to Proxima Centauri took 3 days. As they dropped out of FTL, the devastation was immediately apparent. The once thriving colony was dark, its orbital facilities shattered, debris forming a thin ring around the planet. And among the debris floated 7 Voidborn vessels, 6 smaller ships surrounding one massive command carrier. "Emissions control," Marcus ordered. "Passive sensors only. Let's see what they're doing." The Voidborn appeared to be methodically processing the colony, their smaller ships ferrying materials, and, presumably, captured humans to the command carrier. "Their patrol pattern is precise," noted Tactical Officer Rayan Ali. 60-second intervals, overlapping sensor coverage. There's no way to approach undetected. Marcus studied the pattern. "We don't need to be undetected. We just need to be unpredictable." He outlined his plan. Not a stealthy approach, but a deliberate, provocative one. Half the human fleet would create a distraction, while Marcus's group deployed Dr. Katri's device. "They expect us to be logical," he explained, "to value self-preservation above all. So we'll give them something illogical to process." 24 hours later, the plan was in motion. 15 corvettes launched a direct assault on the Voidborn patrol ships, their attack seemingly suicidal given the enemy's superior firepower. But they didn't engage directly. Instead, they executed complex, unpredictable maneuvers, firing only to draw attention, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted effectively. The Voidborn response was exactly as predicted: methodical, calculated, and increasingly confused as the human ships refused to follow expected combat patterns. Meanwhile, Marcus led Horizon's Legacy and 14 other ships in a tight formation directly toward the command carrier, not trying to hide, but broadcasting on all frequencies a chaotic mixture of signals: music, mathematical errors, contradictory commands. "They're focusing on us," Priya reported. "Their communication frequencies are spiking. I think they're trying to make sense of our transmission." "Perfect," Marcus replied. "Deploy the device on my mark." As they closed to within 10,000 kilometers of the command carrier, the Voidborn finally recognized the true threat. Energy signatures flared as their main weapons powered up. "Now," Marcus ordered. From each of the 15 ships, a small probe launched toward the command carrier. Each contained a variant of Dr. Khatri's device, designed to penetrate Voidborn communications at different frequencies. Evasive maneuvers, Marcus called as the first energy pulses from the Voidborn ship sliced through space where they had been moments before. The probes, nearly invisible against the backdrop of space, continued their trajectory toward the command carrier. One by one, they attached to its hull, their specialized transmitters activating. "All probes deployed," reported Rayen, "functioning at optimal capacity." "All ships, initiate withdrawal," Marcus ordered. "Random jump coordinates as planned." As Horizon's Legacy prepared to jump to FTL, Marcus caught a final glimpse of the command carrier. For a moment, it seemed to drift, its movements suddenly erratic. Then, astonishingly, it fired upon one of its own patrol ships. "It's working," Priya whispered. "The device is confusing their collective consciousness." Marcus allowed himself a moment of hope as the stars stretched around them. The jump drive engaging. "We found another weakness. Now we build on it." Counterattack and resolution. 6 months into the war, humanity had lost 11 colonies, but retained control of its home system. The Voidborn advance had slowed, then stalled as they encountered increasingly effective resistance. Operation Trojan had evolved from a single mission to a systematic campaign of misinformation and cognitive warfare. Earth had been transformed. Cities extended deep underground. Factories operated around the clock producing ships and weapons, and the planet's best minds worked collectively to understand and counter the Voidborn threat. Captain Marcus Dez, commanding the newly commissioned heavy cruiser Phoenix, stood on the bridge as Earth grew smaller behind them. Its ship was humanity's newest achievement, built with integrated Voidborn technology recovered from damaged enemy vessels, yet distinctly human in its design philosophy, prioritizing adaptability over raw power. "All fleet elements report ready," Captain announced his XO, Commander Priya Sharma. Marcus nodded. "Commence Operation Hydra." Across the solar system, 200 ships of varying sizes, from small, agile corvettes to heavy cruisers like the Phoenix, broke orbit from Earth, Mars, and the Jovian moons. This was humanity's counteroffensive, the culmination of months of preparation and sacrifice. Their target, the Voidborn staging area in the Alpha Centauri system, where intelligence suggested their main fleet was gathering for a final push into the Sol system. As the fleet prepared to jump, Admiral Donovan's voice came through on all channels. "Men and women of Earth's defense forces, you carry with you the hopes of our entire species. We've learned from every encounter, adapted from every defeat. Today, we take the fight to them." The jump to Alpha Centauri took 12 hours. When they arrived, the scope of the challenge became immediately apparent. Over 30 Voidborn capital ships, surrounded by hundreds of smaller vessels. Implementing Phase 1, Marcus ordered. The human fleet didn't immediately engage. Instead, they deployed thousands of autonomous drones, each broadcasting contradictory signals designed to confuse Voidborn sensors. Simultaneously, specialized ships began emitting the electromagnetic frequencies developed from Dr. Khatri's research, targeting the Voidborn's collective consciousness. The effect was visible almost immediately. The precisely ordered Voidborn formation began to show signs of disarray, ships maneuvering erratically as conflicting commands propagated through their network. "They're adapting," Priya warned after 20 minutes. "Communications show they're isolating affected nodes." Marcus had expected this. Commence Phase 2. The human fleet split into 5 battle groups, each targeting a different segment of the Voidborn formation. They employed no consistent tactics. Some charged directly into close combat. Others maintained distance for long-range bombardment, while specialized units focused on electronic warfare. The key is unpredictability, Marcus had explained during the mission briefing. Every ship has its own attack pattern, its own priorities. The Voidborn cannot adapt to what they cannot predict. The Phoenix led a group of heavy cruisers directly toward the center of the Voidborn formation, where long-range scans had identified what appeared to be their command vessel, nearly 5 kilometers long, its design distinct from other Voidborn ships. "They're consolidating to protect the command ship," reported Tactical Officer Ali, exactly as anticipated. The battle raged across the Alpha Centauri system. Human ships took heavy losses. The Voidborn's technological edge was still substantial, but for every human vessel destroyed, multiple enemy ships were disabled or damaged. The balance, slowly but steadily, was shifting. 3 hours into the engagement, the Phoenix had fought its way to within striking distance of the Voidborn command ship. Its hull was scored with damage, shields operating at minimal capacity, but its main weapons remained operational. "We've got one shot at this," Marcus told his crew. "Target their central communication array with everything we have." The Phoenix's main cannons, hybrid technology, combining human innovation with recovered Voidborn components, powered up. The energy buildup was dangerous, pushing the ship's reactors beyond safe limits. "Firing solution locked," announced Rayen. "On your command, Captain." Marcus hesitated. Something about the command ship's behavior seemed odd. Unlike the other Voidborn vessels, which fought with mechanical precision, the command ship's movements appeared almost hesitant. "Hold fire," he ordered suddenly. "Priya, open a direct channel to that ship. All frequencies, all formats." His crew looked at him in confusion, but Priya complied. "Channel open, Captain." Marcus stepped forward. "This is Captain Marcus Diaz of the Earth Defense Forces. We have demonstrated our capacity to resist you. We offer an alternative to mutual destruction. Communication, understanding, coexistence." For long moments, there was no response. The battle continued to rage around them, human and Voidborn ships locked in deadly combat. Then, unexpectedly, the main view screen activated. The figure that appeared was unmistakably Voidborn, but different from those Marcus had seen before. Its features were more defined, its multiple eyes focused intently. "You resist effectively," it said, the words halting but clear. "Not as expected." "We are not what you expected," Marcus replied. "We are individuals united by choice, not a collective. Our strength comes from our differences, not our uniformity." The Voidborn seemed to consider this. Purpose of collection: to understand, to evolve. Your species adapts without collection. This is new data. A realization struck Marcus. You don't conquer for territory or resources. You collect to evolve, to incorporate new traits into your collective. Yes, all useful traits must be assimilated. Resistance indicates valuable traits. Marcus saw an opening, not a military one, but a conceptual one. But you cannot assimilate our most valuable trait through collection or study. Our individuality, our creativity. These come from our independence. To truly understand us, you must observe, not collect. The Voidborn was silent for several moments. Around them, the battle seemed to pause, as if both sides sensed a critical moment had arrived. "Alternative proposed," the Voidborn finally asked. "Coexistence," Marcus said firmly. "Exchange of knowledge, not domination. We remain independent, you remain collective. We learn from each other's strengths." The communication abruptly cut off. The Voidborn command ship's energy signatures fluctuated wildly, suggesting intense internal activity. "What's happening?" Priya asked, monitoring their communications. "I think," Marcus said slowly, "they're debating. Something they may not have done before." Minutes passed. Across the battlefield, void-borne ships had ceased firing, remaining in defensive formations but no longer attacking. Human forces, following standing orders, maintained combat readiness but held their positions. Finally, the view screen activated again. The same void-borne appeared, but now it was flanked by others, each slightly different in appearance. Collective has processed. Proposal accepted. For evaluation period. Combat ceases. Exchange begins. Disbelief and hope mingled on the bridge of the Phoenix. Marcus maintained his composure. We accept. I will relay your decision to our leadership. The weeks that followed saw the establishment of a tenuous peace. The void-borne withdrew from human colonies they had occupied, while Earth sent diplomatic and scientific delegations to establish formal communication protocols. It wasn't an unconditional victory. The void-borne remained powerful and not entirely trusted, but it was a beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Alpha Centauri, Marcus found himself walking through a newly established joint research facility on a neutral space station. Humans and void-borne worked side by side, studying each other as much as they collaborated on shared projects. Dr. Catry, now the lead xenobiologist for the diplomatic mission, met him at an observation deck overlooking the station's central hub. It's remarkable, she said, watching the human engineer explain a concept to 3 attentive void-borne. They've begun developing individuality within their collective. Different specializations, different perspectives. They're evolving in response to us, not by assimilating us, but by learning from us. And we're learning from them, Marcus noted. Their biological technology, their neural interfaces, we're incorporating those while maintaining our individuality. Dr. Catry smiled. Commander Chen would be proud. Her sacrifice showed them something they'd never encountered before, that sometimes the whole is preserved through individual sacrifice. It confused them enough to make them curious. And curiosity, Marcus said, is the beginning of understanding. As they looked out at the stars beyond the station, Marcus reflected on humanity's journey. They had faced extinction and emerged not just survivors, but ambassadors of a new way of existence. The galaxy was vast and likely held other intelligences, other challenges. But humanity had proven itself adaptable, resilient, and most importantly, capable of turning enemies into allies through ingenuity rather than force alone. The alert that had once warned of hostile warships approaching now served as a reminder. In the face of overwhelming threat, humanity's greatest weapon had been its humanity itself. The end